Uh, all right, everybody. This is episode 36 of the Unfiltered Race Fans Only podcast. We got a full group this weekend with Chris and Chip. Chip just came back from seeing Mr. Tony Stewart Racing, getting all his prototypes signed. So that was awesome for Chip. Pretty damn jealous there that you got to go see your guy do that, especially after that horrific wreck he had last weekend. See him out bouncing around and then his announcements this week. So we'll get into his news later at the end of the podcast. But so we just finished Loudon, like we had mentioned earlier a couple podcasts ago. We're trying to do better about getting it out as soon as possible because of all of our schedules. So we had a soft tire. I thought it raced well. We don't know what the good race poll is, but we can go ahead and start kind of there. Where does everybody think about the race overall? What did you think? I thought it was pretty damn good with everything they were able to do all over the track. What about y'all, gentlemen?
I got no
Well,
complaints.
Chris says he's happy. What about you, Chip?
I'm very thrilled with it. I mean, you can't say that you couldn't pass. I mean, you look at Blaney, a couple of times they were kind of off, not off strategy, but took four when other guys took two. And, I think he restarted once in 11th, drove all the way back up to fourth. Look at what Josh Berry did after the
Yeah.
spin. I mean, yeah, there was definitely some aero blocking there for the win, I would say, but
Mhm.
still, a good car could pass. And I think that's what you want in a race. You want somebody that's in a good car to be able to make a pass. And I saw that out of this tire and I saw that out of this race.
Yeah. I'll say so. It was mentioned that Penske tested here. So did some of the other cars, but they said Penske was like lights out fast during the test. And I think you saw that today between the leading by Logano and Blaney all day long. Blaney was able to come from the back, drive back up there. Barry, who was in the top five when he got spun by SVG, um, thankfully didn't tear up his car. And you could, like you said, he drove back up through there within that final hundred some laps, all the way to challenge for second. I think had he pitted, he probably was going to give Ryan Blaney even more of a run for his money. But something I didn't think about that somebody had mentioned was when Barry spun, that used up a set of tires. So when everybody else pitted, he didn't have any tires left to go put on. So while there was only a 12 lap variance between the fresh tires and the others, it was enough to where when Barry tried to push after that, I don't know, what was it, like 15, 20 lap battle, it cooked the tires for both of them. And Blaney thankfully was ahead when they were both cooked because they were both sliding all over the place. You could see the back end starting to slide out. I will say I was surprised when they were racing in that final stint like that Byron didn't close in more with as hard as those two were running each other and sliding all over the track, that Byron wasn't able to make up any ground knowing that he wasn't being pushed. Usually that third place car gets pulled into the equation and they just weren't able to close that gap. So uh, good racing there at the end for sure. What about you, Blake? What'd you think?
I'm kind of on the fence. I mean, the first half of the race was far more entertaining in my opinion. The last when Barry was running down Blaney, that was entertaining, but like there was kind of I felt like there was a little bit of a lull there with between like I don't know about 100 to go and 50 to go. Just kind of like I don't know, it just kind of felt like it was the typical follow the leader. You couldn't really. It's like everybody figured it out, so passing became a premium, which happens at a lot of tracks. But I've personally never really been a big fan of New Hampshire flat tracks in general, so it's harder to impress me. So the fact that the first half of the race entertained me, it's a big deal. So I do feel like the tire did a good job. There was wear. It probably didn't wear as much as some would like, but um, you could tell it wasn't really leaving nothing on the track though. So um, you kind of wonder if
Yeah, with
Goodyear
how
might
far the
do that.
groove widened out, it definitely didn't blacken out the track out there where the
Yeah,
lighter asphalt was for sure.
yeah. I know. Mentioning that, I saw Ross Chastain getting about a lane away from the wall there at the end, running. that high on a flat track is kind of
Well, it
you don't
reminds me of when they
ever.
did that at Richmond a couple
Yeah,
of years ago. They were all the way out to the wall.
yeah. So,
So
but overall, I guess it was good. I just barely over the fence there for me.
okay. Well, body armor for Blaney. Oh, it blacks it out. There we go. Ever since I started drinking this stuff at Miami in 2018 or 17, no 18, the first Camaro race. This stuff is good. So, body armor for Blaney. Where's your prime for make prime primary there, Blake?
Uh, I
You ain't
didn't
got one.
grab one.
All right, you're letting us down.
I know.
So, we definitely had tire wear, like they mentioned, they were bringing the same tire they had at Gateway and Richmond. I think we saw overall really good racing, all the grooves. I will say the ones that surprised me, JGR was definitely not as strong the start of this round as they were the last round. Bell qualified in the back. He's won 2 of the last 3 races. Denny and Bell and Gibbs were all racing around each other. And, Ty, so we can talk about that right here in just one second. But then also Briscoe having their issues. None of the JGR cars were an outright domination threat, which was a surprise based on how well they performed here the last handful of years. So we definitely have a momentum shift after the first round where everybody was kind of like in survival mode, and JGR, maybe they showed their hand while everybody else was just trying to, get through. And now it's time to show what you got because the low hanging fruit's been kind of eliminated. So we'll see how that goes. But so our first incident we briefly touched on, uh, they get down there, or SVG's running the top 5 in that first stage, spins Barry. Barry goes to the back.
We never
Um,
touched them.
Not really, yeah, no. Well, I mean, he did, but not nothing major. It's just enough coming up out of the corner. Normal racing deal. Barry smartly was able to save the car, and we see him come back to finish second. The next big one, though, was when they're restarting. That was after the second stage got going. That big wreck where Keselowski's down on the apron, comes off the wall. SVG's pinching him down. Bowman's pinching him down. Like that was
You
just
mean
like
the 5 cars outside of him were pinching him down?
right, right. So it was a culmination of a whole bunch of really bad decisions. That was like what 7 wide essentially.
It was 7
Um,
wide. Yeah.
yeah, you can't
Like
really.
let's
I
let's put a
can't.
little bit of thought into what we're doing here.
Brad stuffed it in there. Like everybody's probably going to blame Brad, but there were 6 other people that also made bad decisions in that turn, all on that restart. So that that was definitely avoidable, and it definitely impacted some people's days for sure. Took
Oh yeah.
Brad, who had been a top 10 car earlier, out of it. SVG, who had been a top 10 car, got taken. That ruined his day. Um, Barry skated through there unbelievably, ruined Bush's day. So, any thoughts on that wreck other than just seemed like to me like a bunch of people all collectively making a bad decision at the same time?
Just impatience. I mean, there was still a lot of race left, and the field can get strung out, and if you don't go, you can lose a good deal of track position. But I feel like every bit of that, just a little bit of patience, and kind of let it sort itself out, and you would have been okay. But just too much too soon, I think.
Yeah, I think you probably should have seen some people who, looking back on it, lived to fight another corner. You know, it's a wide track, but we rarely see them use that much all at the same time. They all basically had the same idea. There we go, prime for primary, make it primary. With the Larson paint scheme on it, might I add. Got that HMS style red and white. But yeah, I'm not surprised that that happened. I'm surprised as many people dove in there at the same time, knowing that we had seen up to that point, if you had a good car, even though you're in the back and you were managing your tires, there were so many grooves, you could pass. It might take you a while. This wasn't one of those races where you had to get all you could on the restart or you would never pass. We have plenty of
Well,
evidence to see that.
it
So
does it does take a few laps to get by somebody. So
yeah.
if that works for Brad, you're knocking off 7 or 8 cars in one
Oh,
corner, and
sure.
that saves, not really saves your race, but that helps your race a shit ton. So I mean, risk reward, the risk was way higher than the reward on that one.
Yep. Let's see. So it was pretty much a Ford and Chevy weekend. After Gateway, I was curious if that speed we saw at Gateway and we saw at Richmond would prevail for HMS. It looked like they had found some stuff between those two tests. That does appear to be true. Larson went up there and led for a little bit. Byron finished third, came back strong after some brake issues. Chase and them used some strategy to get up there. The only one that really didn't do anything all day was Bowman. Kind of indicative of the bad, just a bad run of performance they've had as of late, to take themselves out. So to me, at least that gives us some hope if for it to be not just a pure Penske dominated flat track finale here when we go to Martinsville and Phoenix, assuming any of the HMS cars make it into the final four.
Well, if they do, they need to work on one thing. They need to adjust
Yeah.
the cars better as the race goes. I was
Yeah.
telling you off air here. The moment Larson took the lead, the car got tight and it stayed tight the rest of the damn race. So they weren't adjusting. They didn't adjust until it was too late. So you need to, the track's going to get tight. And even Cliff Daniels said, this is about the time it usually gets tight. Well, why weren't you adjusting for that?
Yeah.
And
I think
you're
that's
always
why
going
Joey
to
lost it too.
figure it out. Yeah, he
Because
was
Joey came in and said he
was
was afraid to touch the car when he was in the lead, and I think as a result he got behind.
Yeah.
He still managed to come back and finish in the top five, but took himself out of contention to win after leading and winning stages and everything. But they did what they had to do in terms of getting out of the basement. They started the round below the cut line and they ended by making up 30 something points. So they did what they had to do. So after that race, do we think, I mean, we're going to Kansas. JGR has been strong on the mile and a halfs, and they were strong in the first round. Do you think JGR is in trouble after what we saw at this flat track when we get to Martinsville and to Phoenix?
It
Being that they
depends
were
on how their
stronger.
meeting goes tomorrow morning with the.
True. That's true. That looked like a very tense situation on pit road. I obviously Ty Gibbs is the grandson, so there's some favorability there. I'm sure everybody would assume.
Well, Joe is trying to say that he leaves that up to the drivers, and I got a
Yeah.
feeling that that's hogwash. I think tomorrow morning in the competition meeting, there's going to be, some words said on both sides of that coin.
Yeah.
Well, Denny answered how it's going to be answered by the drivers.
Yep. And the thing is, so
I didn't hear that part, so not to put me in.
if Ty's the successor for Gibbs Racing, which he is, Ty in the moment has to learn to think fourth dimensional chess. And Ty's definitely not there. He's barely three-dimensional chess in Cup right now. Because your two teammates you're racing hard to try and keep behind you are racing for a championship and trying to advance. And you're not in it. And you're holding them up. And then, so there's what's best for your day on track, but there's what's best for this company that you're going to inherit and run one day. And he's not doing what he should. And then the people that he's racing, one of the two brings in a shitload of money to that company through both the alliance with 2311 and the sponsors and partnerships and through all the success that Denny has brought into JGR. So I understand if coach goes in there and tries to, back his grandson, but I think he would be foolish to do so when you look at the technical alliance and how much they benefit from each other, the 2311 deal, plus Denny and what he brings in from a sponsorship standpoint. So like of the two and the main parties involved, Denny is the much more contributing and financially beneficial stakeholder in that whole relationship in my mind. We're a long way from Ty being at the maturity level to, think four-dimension chess, if you will. What do y'all think?
I think Ty's got a lot to learn. I think he will get there, but in that situation, I know it's a race and you don't want to give up any positions, but you look at how Barry raced Blaney. Barry could have just drove it in there and dumped Blaney and went on to try to win the race, but he knew essentially this is a teammate, right?
Mhm.
I can't race this way. So Barry was smart enough to know that I can't do this. It's just Ty just in the moment, and I get it. You're in the car, race, 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 go, go, go. But it just at that particular time, just let him go. I mean, his time will come, but just in that moment, let your teammate go. Just don't be an idiot.
Yeah, and I do think part of Ty's frustration, obviously, is the fact that we're closing the end of his third full-time season, and he is still winless, which is usually when most of your drivers that come in, with this car especially, have taken 3 to 4 years to mature. So his runway of like it's time to step up to the plate compared to the amount of large success he had in Xfinity coming in, his runway is starting to come to an end on, okay, when's the light switch gonna flip? And I mean, last week I praised him with Blake, you rewind that race 3 races prior to the April spring race where he didn't manage his car, he overdrove the car, burned the tires off of it last week at Bristol. He learned from that experience, much better management of the race. I think he's probably beating himself up because he let that one get away, which probably led to some of the frustrations for this week and not letting people go, with that pit mistake. But yeah, he just overall needs to learn to race smarter and mature some. Again, it, big picture, your teammates are fighting for a championship and you're not. And none of y'all have race winning cars that day. So
Well,
you're not even fighting for the win. Y'all are fighting for 10th, 11th, and 12th right there. Like there's really no difference. So just let them go. And they need the stage points and you don't.
well, I think some of this comes back on Denny as well.
Yeah.
You need to think smart. Yeah, you came into this race 26 up, but you know, you need to look at where you're at on track, where everybody else is, and do you really need to push the issue that much at that point of the race? And I don't think the answer is yes, it's not. You need to chill out and not. There's a scenario where he does that, Ty spins and takes the 11 out too. So
Or more
you know,
importantly, takes out Bell.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
he
almost
put him
happened.
right into Bell's, you
So
know,
that's where I was at on it. Yeah, it was stupid to be racing that way, but also if you're Denny, just chill out for a minute, let it settle itself out, let him burn his stuff up, and then just walk by. But he pushed the issue and created team drama, and that's the last thing you want in the middle of the playoffs.
Well, where's that fine line between pushing the issue though? Because fuck, they battled what 8 laps. I mean, at
mhm.
some point, those two are faster. They both fucking caught you, and you were at a point in the race where you could have just let them go, made adjustments to the car, and then gone back after them later on too. So I mean,
Yep.
it's
Yeah, the fact that they
fucking
were,
Denny stayed off him. Denny stayed off him for a long time, but I mean, I'm not one that should say Ty should have just given the fucking positions. Other than they are teammates, there's no
yep,
reason why you were holding him up, and he was blocking the fuck out of Denny for numerous laps on end. And he did.
yep.
I mean,
And
he
that's,
changed his line. Denny changed his line. So fucking Ty changed his line. That was stupid.
yeah, I was gonna say they went into that corner side by side, and then Ty went high through the corner and then arced down. Denny maintained his second lane off the groove loop. And as he came around, Denny was like, I'm not letting you pinch me off anymore. He basically just held his point and kept driving through and pushed. I'm sure he intended just to push him up, not to spin him out. But with
Yeah,
the
because you
cars
could
being
see.
flat, with the racetrack being so flat there, it takes very little to lift the back end, which is where all the downforce is, to once you push it off of or take the air out of it, it just goes. Which we
Yeah,
wish we could see that more in other places, but in these tracks you definitely do.
because
But
you
I'm
could
not in
definitely
agreement.
you could definitely see where Denny gassed it up.
Oh yeah, he was like, I'm not letting you in here. Kind of like last week with John Hunter and filling the gap on Chase. Like, I'm not letting you in here. I've raced you and
Yeah.
raced you. You got bumped up out of the track. This hole is closed.
Yep.
And you know, Ty either blew the corner or didn't get as good a corner entry. And when he tried to come down and pinch, and we saw lots of people do that throughout the day, pinch folks off that, SVG was doing it. And Barry didn't spin SVG out when he could have, vice versa. SVG nudged Barry around. So that definitely could have been the case there as well.
I, I did want to ask Blake real quick though.
Yo.
I listened to the podcast you guys did last week. I wasn't able to hop in, but what's your take other than just some of the stupid shit that happened on track? What's your take on what could have been with SVG's performance today other than he got wrecked? I mean, he's learning.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely, I mean, they do say flat tracks drive kind of like road courses, so that could be part of it. He ran great at Martinsville last fall. I don't know where did he finish today.
Let
He
me
was
look.
51 laps down. He got caught up in that.
Yeah, he
that
got
wreck.
caught in that big one, but prior
He
to
got-
that, he was fifth
Oh, okay.
in that.
Okay.
You know,
He
he was
got-
in that top five.
Yeah, he got spun and Kyle Busch nailed him in the right front, broke the
he was-
suspension.
He had top 5 speed the whole run, the whole time before that. I mean,
Yep.
I know Larson on the first run, Larson was running him down, but everybody else was kind of staying stationary behind him, and he was gapping them. So he's definitely getting it. Probably not as fast as they would have liked because he could have been in this round. But with that, I think the bounce back with Barry is also something to be talked about. With him having 3 straight weeks of shit luck.
Yep. I really wanted him to win. I didn't want him to have to do anything dirty to Blaney to get it, but to see him get spun, go all the way back, and then work his way back up through there methodically without, driving anybody dirty, without being involved in any further incidents, that was definitely proof that they had a good car, that tires and tire management did matter because they managed their tires well because they were down a set the rest of the way. So, yep. I was impressed there. The other person that impressed me, so, earlier in the season, he was competing for a chance to make the playoffs. He even came close to getting a win, and then ended up, just basically doing Hurricane Hocevar stepping on your dick things. Well, he carved out an 11th place finish today, ran inside the top 10, competed in the top 5, and had the fastest lap of the day. So,
did he end up getting it?
Yep, he got the fastest lap. So that's a big change for them compared to where they were leading into the playoffs, where I'm sure at some point they've sat him down and said, look, we're going the wrong direction. We had made up all this ground. We need to go back the other way. Because he was sniffing wins back at the Coke 600 and, earlier in the season, and they've still got that speed. So they needed to buckle back down and, keep your nose clean. And he seems to be doing that now.
Yeah.
He was in contention to win the race last weekend, granted on older tires, but they had maintained that in order to get in that position, they had maintained their position all day. And he and Gibbs had been going back and forth about it all day. So this just continues to show that improvement. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the last key point I had in this race, I kind of referenced it in the chat earlier. I don't know if you all noticed it, but Cody Ware tried to pull Danica Patrick. It was obvious that he was trying to wreck Austin Dillon for earlier.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, he didn't try to do a Danica Patrick. He did complete a Danica Patrick.
Tried to wreck him and wrecked himself.
Wrecked himself instead. TV obviously didn't notice that.
No, they were too focused on the top drivers. All they saw was him go around.
Back what they're screwing up.
And he's managed to stay out of the way. They have been improving, very small improvements, but he had actually been, finishing some races and doing some smart things of staying out of the leader's way and just, little tiny baby steps for Rick Ware Racing, right? So for this, it was like, man, you'd actually gained some credibility, been doing the right things, and then you just blow it up. Every good thing you just did got undone by today. So I don't know what he was thinking there, but swing and
I'm
miss.
sure he'll be in the discussion with Tommy Baldwin tomorrow for the Shit Show Hall of Fame. Since Tommy Baldwin's his crew chief,
Was he the crew chief?
He's either the crew chief or the spotter for him, one of the two. But he's
a competition director.
Yeah, Tommy.
Is that what it is? Okay. But either way, he, as an employee of Rick Ware Racing, I'm sure he'll have to nominate his own guy this week.
Speaking of Rick Ware, they settled the lawsuit.
That's what I was going to say next. So they've come to an agreement. Go ahead, Blake.
I'll just they settled the lawsuit with Legacy, and I guess there is a deal in place with RFK next year with the other charter. So I guess they've. I don't know if they actually announced what the resolution was, but just that there is a resolution.
It
It
was
sounds
private.
like, yeah, RFK is going to run the 60 again next year. So my guess is there was probably some money involved, and Legacy will be getting the charter in 27, just like is planned. So
Well, I think
my assumption is next year will be the last year you see Cody Ware racing a cup car.
yeah, I was gonna say what it read like to me was okay, so we've agreed to settle it. Where I think agreed they were in the wrong. Legacy, because it's taken so long to get to this point of resolution, is essentially saying, okay, we can't, it's too late in the season to build and prepare for a third car. So we're gonna let you keep it for one more year. And so they're gonna lease it out to, like I said, RFK is gonna be able to run the 60, where we'll be able to do their thing. And I would imagine whatever monies are earned by that charter will probably be split between them and Legacy, since Legacy won't be prepared to run it
Yeah.
until next year. So that gives them, but that does resolve the issue. And so we do know then for sure that Legacy Motorsports will be a 3-car full-time team in 2027. We don't know what the number or the sponsor or who would drive it, but they're
Or
setting
the
up
manufacturer.
or the manufacturer for that matter. The fact that they're making so much progress with Toyota, though, without all the help of now they had an off day today, but up until now we've been seeing
Yeah, poor John Hunter and ran
Eric
out of
Jones have
talent.
been very many. Well, they were bumping, jumping on those bumps throughout the corner. So, uh, yeah, just a bad day for them. But otherwise, they've been making a lot of ground considering they're not in the JGR information exchange. So, uh, be interesting to see what they decide to do. So, anything else with the race itself you guys want to talk about?
Penske
Um,
Power.
Hmm?
Penske Power.
Yep, Penske Power. Well, I mean, at the beginning of the playoffs, I said I think Penske's going to go 4 for 4, and I'm still very confident in that discussion. I'm not so confident in my other prediction that HMS is going to get shut out based on their short track speed, but it's still a possibility because they only have 3 bullets left and there's still 5 more races to go. Uh, but and nobody's guaranteed in yet. So let's look at where everybody stands after our first race. So going in, just to recap, Denny started plus 26, Byron plus 24, Larson plus 24, Bell plus 20, Blaney was plus 19, Briscoe plus 10, Elliott plus 5, and Bubba was plus 1. Cindric was down 1, Logano down 2, Ross down 2, Reddick down 3. After the race, Blaney has locked himself in with the win. Byron's plus 47, so he gained 20 points further to securing his position. Larson at plus 41 gained almost 20 points to furthering his cause. Bell plus what looks like 9 more. Yep, he gained 9 points. Denny was plus 27, or he was plus 27, and he was plus 26. So he only gained 1 point after all that. That's pretty bad.
no, he lost the
He didn't lose points, but he didn't really gain anything all day. Logano's our big mover up at plus 24. So he gained almost 30 points on the day. And then Elliott plus 14 gained a small amount of points to, increase his gap over the cut line, and Briscoe's plus 12. Chastain, even though he finished inside the top 10, now is down 12. Cindric's down 19. Reddick and Bubba are minus 23 and 27 respectively. So with our new 4 below the line, the only one that really changed, well, no, 2 of them changed, didn't they? Go back and look real quick. Yeah.
Bubba and Logano.
Yeah, Bubba and Logano swapped. So everybody else stayed the same. Blake, you said that Logano wasn't going to make it out. I said he would. I'm never willing to count Big Ball Paul out, especially when there's a flat track involved.
I'm more surprised at Bubba failing to produce this weekend because they were really good at Gateway, and this is another flat track. What happened in 2 weeks? Like it's like a light switch was hit and they were left in the dark. Like both car, well, the 45 was actually strong early. I'm not sure where he ended up, but the the 23 never had it, not once, and just kind of it's confusing to see him run top five at Gateway and actually had winning speed at some certain points of the race.
Mhm.
To come to New Hampshire and have no speed that's definitely a mystery.
Do you think that they are looking forward to Kansas based on their track history there? Do you think they
I,
are
I
putting all
want to
their
say
eggs in
yes.
that basket?
I want to say yes, but they were terrible there last fall.
That's true.
So I mean, I don't remember what they did in the spring. Um,
I
So,
don't think. What's that?
what's it? I don't
I don't
remember what they
remember
did
them
in the
doing
spring.
well, like dominating in the spring either.
Yeah,
Well, in terms of so when we look at the playoffs and where they stand right now, heading into Kansas, Blaney obviously did what he needed to do to guarantee himself through to the next round, and I'm sure they're eyeballing Martinsville. All eyes are on Martinsville now for
yeah.
them, which they've won back to back in the fall now. So the only two that did anything to further their cause, besides Joey climbing out of the hole, were Larson and Byron. Everybody else barely furthered their cause. And on a day where 2311 had mistakes, I'm surprised more people didn't capitalize. The only person who really capitalized on those mistakes to gain ground was Logano. They coughed up an opportunity to gain points. The 22 team capitalized on that opportunity. Chase,
It,
both Chases, Elliott and Briscoe, and Denny and Bell, none of them, for being as fast as all of those guys were in the first round, gained really anything. And so they're going into the next two races really no better than they started. They still got a sizable cushion, but none of them have a really healthy, like you're barely two stage wins away from being knocked out. And with those stage points hanging out there, it won't take very much for somebody to be dropped down.
yeah, it appears that Byron and Larson, if they have a even keel day at Kansas, probably top seven on
Mm.
both parts, they won't have to worry about the Roval at all because they're plus 40 plus right now. So
Yeah.
a top 10 day, they're probably locked in and not having to worry about doing anything at the Roval.
Well, the
I
most
was
points you can score is 61 points in a race, the fastest lap plus the win.
Yeah.
And so with that knowledge, Byron he's at plus 47. He needs 14 points to lock in. Larson needs 19. You can
Yep.
accomplish that through stage wins. If they both gain
Mm-hmm.
a fair amount of stage points and finish
Yeah,
no
that's why I was saying top
30th, they're
seven.
both through.
Yeah.
So everybody else needs to buckle down.
And Larson won that race in the spring, so
Yep. Well, I would take that as like an indicator of good performance, but then I mean Bell won this race 2 of the last 3 years and he never even got close to the front. And that was again just really shocking with as much as they've had this track on lockdown and how strong they've been at Phoenix. I was very surprised by that. They qualified poorly and they didn't have great race speed. Denny running so well at Gateway, I was surprised he didn't run better as well. I just wonder what JGR missed on as a whole. Toyota, more importantly, as a whole, because I mean, 2311 didn't run well either.
I wonder who the Toyota driver was for their tire test for New Hampshire. Because
Bell.
Logano was Ford's, so
I think it was Seabell.
I think it was Bell.
well, that's interesting then that they didn't really show anything. I mean, they finished decent, but
Okay,
Pretty sure it was Seabell.
so with two races left to the cutoff, we've got our bottom four: Chastain, Cindric, Reddick, Wallace. Do you think any of them are going to make it back above the line, or you think they're going to stay there because their holes all got deeper?
I mean, like Chip said earlier, you would think that Kansas would be good for 2311. Um, I would say Reddick has two missiles to shoot. He's good on road courses. But Bubba's only chance probably is Kansas. um, to win Kansas. I think 23 points is a lot to overcome with the competition you're against.
Yeah. Well, I can still see a path for Logano going out, even though he's won Kansas before a few times. The Penske cars haven't had the mile and a half speed as much. And earlier in the year when they had it, they had engine detonations and other problems. So I can still see a path where maybe they'll go from offense where they gain these points to defensive mode, which may give an opportunity for some other people to make up ground.
Well, not to mention he's not really all that great at the Roval, so
No,
that's where
no, he's
he
always had
got
to go
knocked.
in there.
He got knocked out last year, and then he got brought back in with the Bowman penalty. But you got to look at that as well. And really and truly, he did win Texas, but outside of Texas, their mile and a half program for the 22 anyway hasn't been all that great. So I agree with you. There is a pathway for him to fall back out.
I wonder how they're going to race the Roval. And I was thinking about this. So if you are Ryan Blaney, for instance, and we don't know usually the playoff drivers show up and they shine at the road courses. I still think SVG is going to be lights out unless
I think it's his trophy. So I think everybody else is fighting for second.
But if you
I disagree.
are Ryan Blaney, do you say you don't want to concede the win to anybody, but do you say, you know what, a point may matter? Do you say, all right, I'm going to go for the stage win, take 2 points into the next round just as a cushion because those 2 playoff points would transfer? If you're Blaney, do you say the heck with the win because I don't think I can beat SVG, I don't think I can beat Larson, Tyler Reddick, blah 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 blah? Do you go after those 2 stage wins to have a little bit of buffer because one driver will make it in on points?
Yep. And the next round is Martinsville, Talladega, and Vegas.
And you're guaranteed nothing.
Yeah.
So
the only, and of those 3 tracks, even though Blaney's won Dega before several times, his best track is Martinsville. And you don't want to have to wait till the very end to lock your chance.
I would get as many points that could transfer as I could to help my call.
What y'all got to also think about, he just got 5 bonus points today.
True.
I'm pretty sure he will, unless Larson or Byron win one of the next 2 races.
Yeah, he got a stage and
he will be starting the next round second or possibly first in points due to that win.
Yeah.
Pull that back up, Alan. What did he start today? Plus what? Because he
started the day plus 19.
Okay, so he will be tied with Larson and Byron if nothing else changes.
No, he'll be above him. He'll actually be above him because he's got a stage win. So he'll be plus 26.
Did he win a stage?
Or 25. Yep, he won a stage.
Okay, so he'll be 25.
So he would right now start second if they reset. If all the same players were to advance, he would move up from 5th to 2nd.
So yeah, I would absolutely go after the stage wins if given the opportunity. I would absolutely say I can't beat SVG. I'm going to try to get the stages,
and that puts him only 1 point behind the 11.
Yep, he'd only be 1 point back of the 11, and so really, I think this coming weekend then at Kansas is going to be insane because at the reset they're going to be that tight. And so there's points out there to be had in those. There's 4 stage points available to Blaney where that's all he needs. And if he has the opportunity to win, he can obviously capitalize on it. But there's 4 stage points for them to go get at a minimum, and then 10 additional bonus points in the event that they're in a position to win either one or both of those races where they don't have to worry about anything else. So it should be very, very interesting come Kansas because Kansas races very well, multiple grooves, extremely fast. Anything else with the cutoff line y'all want to talk about?
I think if Cindric doesn't show anything Kansas as well, he's probably done. We haven't really talked about Cindric, but Cindric is kind of, he shows up and shines, or he's nowhere to be found. It's never just kind of, he's never hovering. He's either a part of the conversation or nowhere at all.
Well, he finished 17th today, and at one point he was up inside that, he was following the same strategy Pagano and
Yeah, he
Blaney
took two
were.
tires when everybody else took four. That's the
It
only
didn't
reason why.
work. It didn't work. His 2 tire call didn't work.
Nope.
So I agree. I think overall, even though he's listed as a good road course racer, I think he's done. I think
He
this was his
hasn't he
chance, like
hasn't run good on a
Pagano.
road course since he was not since before he was a full time driver. He was
Yeah,
a great
yeah.
he was great in the Gen 6, but in this car he sucks.
Yeah. And I feel bad for what could have been if Barry was still in it. If he hadn't had the most abysmal round in the history of rounds. I mean, what could he just finished second.
He said
He
Harrison Burton hold my beer.
Yeah, he said, you want to see what a shit performance looks like? A lame duck winning your entry? I'll show you what a lame duck winning your entry looks like. And none of it was his fault. The team blew the setup at Darlington. The car bottoms out, wrecks. He gets taken out by Chase Elliott, and the car catches fire. Literally, none of those things are his fault. So,
If you all remember when Chris Buescher lucked into a win at Pocono in the 34, he did better. Josh
Yep.
Berry.
Yep. So, I do feel bad because I mean, what could have been? I mean, they had a car today. They'll probably be fast at Kansas because they were fast at Vegas. They weren't bad at Kansas in the spring. They early on in the season had that good speed, so we'll see.
I would say, as far as Josh Berry's concerned, at least in my opinion, it would have been nice to see him be a Penske driver as opposed to a Penske affiliate. But I think, but on that same note, I would much rather see Josh Berry be successful and be a better fit for the oldest team in the fucking series.
Yes.
And I would rather see that success come with them than I would see it transfer over, or see him potentially see Cindric out of the two and have them move Barry over. I'd rather them just put more focus in and keep helping get that 21 where it needs to be.
I see when Cindric's contract is over, I see them doing something like that, to be honest. I really do.
Switching them. Yeah, but switching them because I mean, or getting another driver and Cindric being gone altogether. I mean, he fired his dad already. So
Yep, that's what I'm saying. I mean, there's no loyalty to be had there.
And then
Oh.
three scoops of that stuff in there.
No water.
Okay.
No.
No water. None.
So with that, before we get into the other news of the weekend, Chip's Tony Stewart experience. That's just news to us, but also Tony had a lot of news this weekend. I did want to talk about. I posted it, but Blake and I forgot to bring it up in my off the show sheet last week. But it's better that there's even more of us on here. So during the prior week's lawsuit disclosures with the briefs filed and everything, we actually got to see the slide deck for Golden Codes. And even though that's something that never came to fruition, because ultimately an agreement was reached with the majority of teams through the charter negotiation, I still think it's very interesting to see NASCAR's financials and projections on how they would run the series if they were able to cut the teams out. Their estimates comparative to the team's expenses, there's a massive delta between the two. So the team said it would take $20 million on average. It's what all the charter owners had said. Takes on average $20 million a year per car per season. That with 36 charter teams, that comes to $720 million. NASCAR's entire expenditure, when you add all those slides up to replace the teams, not the infrastructure for the other stuff in the background, but just to replace the teams and what they do, the delta is 56% cost spend difference. NASCAR would only expend $319 million to the team's $720 million. That's a 56% difference in cost. That's pretty big in my mind. To see how NASCAR would pay for it, being that they would be the ones creating all the cars, putting the teams out and everything. And I think you would have zero competition because all the cars would 100% be equal at that point because you're cutting out all the engineers from all the teams and all the different mines. It's all a NASCAR's guys and all the same parts. I think you just have slot cars at that point.
It would be an overpriced ARCA or IROC series.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the things they weren't thinking about was, does each driver procure their own sponsor? What happens with that money, and the NASCAR is not going to go out and get sponsors for each driver like that. I don't think they thought it out one bit. Like, does each driver get their own spot, hire a spotter and a crew chief, or does NASCAR give them that? Like, they they didn't think about that at all. I mean, it's a great thing that it didn't happen, because I think that would have ruined the sport in a year.
Yeah, their
I'm not
projection.
sure
When
they
you look at
wanted
the
that
line
out.
items, go ahead, Chip. Sorry.
I'm not sure that they wanted that out. I think that's one of the things that, unfortunately, when all the data got released, and Denny Hamlin even said there's going to be some things come to light, y'all, that you're going to be like, holy cow. And I'm not necessarily sure that NASCAR's thrilled that information is out there, but it just I don't have a dog in the fight, but boy, it's hard not to see Denny's point of view in all of this. When you look at it from the numbers, and man's got a solid point. I'll just say that. I don't know that he wins. I do. We're getting close. What did we say? December.
It's
When's the
supposed to start
trial?
December 1st. Like basically right after the championship weekend banquet, we're going to trial.
I don't think they settle. I do not think they settle. I think we've gone too far. I think it goes to trial. I will say that.
Yeah, the bad thing is, I mean, we've talked about it in various episodes, and I mean, I do think, and I had mentioned it on one where y'all weren't able to attend, but I mean, I do think the NASCAR we've been watching this season. I think this is the last time you're going to watch this NASCAR.
Oh,
Whatever
absolutely.
comes out of this trial, it's not going to look like this anymore. We don't even know, they're getting ready to announce the playoff format somewhere here in the next 8 races, because we're supposed to have a meeting this week allegedly for the
Yeah, it was supposed to happen Thursday.
yeah, the championship layout, and we don't even know if that's going to matter, because depending on how the seat at the table comes out, you may have to go back and rewrite the playoff format again, or get rid of it altogether, because the judge has already said, if it comes to me and I have to decide all this, I can throw the whole charter system out. I can make you sell off the tracks. There's all kinds of stuff that can happen, and none of it is good for anybody. Ultimately, it's all bad.
Yeah, I
Even if the
mentioned
teams
this.
win, they lose, and NASCAR loses no matter what, even if they win.
Yeah, I mentioned this. I think it was just me and you, but I see him, if it comes down to him giving partial ownership to all the teams, and also making it to where NASCAR has to have a percentage number of tracks that are not owned by SMI or ISC on the schedule. Make it, 15% or something like that, or it has to be races that do not currently have races that are not owned by either track, and neither company can buy any of the tracks also to eventually hold ownership. So I see some of that shit happening because of how they tried to make it to where where the tracks have to sign something that only their stock car series can run there.
Yeah, the other parts of that golden code, so there was the financial model, but there was the discussion of the actions that basically, in my mind, the way I read it, would make it hard for me to side with NASCAR if they were to argue, no, we're not acting as a monopoly. Everything I saw on that was
monopolistic.
step you take if you want to create a monopoly, and you have enacted them. You've bought up the competitive series. You've made the tracks sign exclusivity agreements that if they run any other stock car stuff, they wouldn't be able to get a cup race. You took steps to partner with Roger Penske. You went and consulted with the Gold Codes portion. You consulted other competitive drivers and teams from the lower 2 series in an effort to get rid of all the existing teams if necessary. Like every single step that I saw on that list and that has been laid out so far says, not only are we a monopoly? But we purposely, we created a monopoly to prevent a live golf situation within our series. Their intentions might have been good from a standpoint of, preserving the health of the sport in their mind, but it was very much at the expense of the teams. And yeah, like you said, like what would they do for sponsorship if they owned it? How would all that work? I think the cars would all be slot cars. And like I said, I don't think any, I don't, we know Denny and Michael and them ain't going to give an inch. So the only person who can fix this now is NASCAR. And as long as Jim France is in charge, I don't see that happening.
Well, I think somebody in one of their meetings, their closed door meetings, said, "What would Big Bill do?" And that's the last thing you want to do in 2025 is
Yep.
ask, "What would Big Bill do?" Because you can't pull that shit anymore. The shit they pulled in Talladega was in the 70s with the tire issue, where all the
and the
drivers tried
anti-union
to,
and everything. Yep.
yeah, you can't do that shit in 2025. That's what they're doing, and
Well, tell me if this makes sense to you guys. I really think Jim ultimately thought that way. Thought you could keep that same mentality. And the fact that they went through and used under the guise of this car being
proprietary.
Well, not the proprietary part, but the fact that they used the guise of it being a cost cutting, which the teams did ask for, but worked in the proprietary measures while designing this car, that they were almost looking at the possibility of something like this happening again, and them saying, "Oh, well, sorry, fuck you. You guys aren't going to show up. We can put whoever the fuck we want in these cars now because we own the fucking car."
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Or if nobody showed up, then guess what? They have a surplus of fucking IMSA cars that they can just rebody and go fucking run them on a road course because they own the IMSA Series 2.
Yep.
That's exactly.
I think they're
car-
going to have to sell that too. I really do. I think
The
they're
car-
gonna have to sell it.
I
the
picked all
MC?
that up
Yeah.
listening to you guys last week. I started putting that shit together while I was driving around. It's like they build a fucking full bodied. They put a stock car body on a fucking IMSA car is what they did.
Yep. They made some tweaks, but at the end of the day, it's a sports car.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, but you saw in NASCAR's 2020, 2021 initial briefings when this whole really thing started leading into the charter negotiations and like steps for preparing for the future. The car was a critical component of it. The teams asked for cost cutting. NASCAR took that opportunity as a way to give them what they were asking for, but at the same time leverage the components necessary to get what they wanted. Because now the parts being outsourced to all these vendors to steer this ship and make any fix to this, let's say, fixing the tire. Just from that one standpoint, we all agree if you fix the tire, you will get better racing. Well, the way you fix the tire, besides relying on Goodyear to make it softer, is make the wheels smaller, make the brakes smaller, give them more sidewall, etc. And you've made that almost impossible because there's a vendor for the wheel, there's a vendor for the brakes, there's a vendor for the hub, there's a vendor for the tire, and they're all independent contractors now. The team
and look how close they got to making Joe Gibbs the frame vendor.
Yep. So by all of those pieces now having support and agreements to buy a certain number per year, the people that make the wheels, BBS, the people that make the brakes, Brembo, etc., it takes a committee to make any fix. It's no longer NASCAR has where in some cases it is good to have the total autonomy of a France family at the top to say, we agree there's a problem, fix it, teams go find us the fix. Now you can't do that even if you want to because you have an agreement with 30 to 40 part suppliers. The teams aren't allowed to fix it because it would violate all the terms of those agreements financially, and you would have breach of contract lawsuits against NASCAR and the teams from all those part suppliers.
Yep.
So,
which in turn, in my opinion, means that that really fucking sucks for Goodyear because NASCAR's now put them in a box that they've admitted we don't have the chemicals we need to make the tires gummy the way that they need to be to get the ultimate grip into the car or the actual tire fall off instead of them turning to a fucking powder. So if you're not going to try and work with your manufacturers to redesign the rims, you can use the same company, but change the fucking rim, change the diameter of the fucking brakes, and give us a bigger fucking sidewall back that they can put some kind of adjustability in these cars. Otherwise, we're never going to see good racing again, just trying to rely on Goodyear, because they can't build a fucking tire that's going to ultimately make the racing good again. I mean,
No, the
on a regular
margin,
basis, it's not going to happen.
the margin, because of the sidewall, the tire width, and the small amount of rubber they can put on the base of the tire, that it will adhere to that little bit of a sidewall. You know, you can't bring the housing around very much because there's not much to work with there on the lip of the tire foundation. They've given what Goodyear maybe had like this before, where they could work on tire profile, has shrunk to something like this. So
Yeah.
if we're measuring in tenths where they might have had 50 notches they could work within, now they got 10. And the delta between 7 and 8, for example, is extreme. Where before it was like you had way more variability you could build into it. So, all right. Well, that's all I wanted to bring up was just about that golden codes, just in general. I thought the financial numbers were very interesting, just to see the difference between what NASCAR thinks they can do. And it does highlight just how much profit, to Denny and them's point, NASCAR is baking into it for themselves and the tracks from the TV agreement and everything else. Because if you cut them out, we think we can run it for X, which is significantly less than if we involve all the teams and their personnel and what they bring in from the sponsors, which only strengthens their argument that we don't even come close to bringing in enough money to run even, not make a profit, run even. So we'll see where that goes. So with that, the only other thing I had for this weekend was there was a lot of Tony Stewart racing news in general. If anybody wants to go, they can. But being that this is Chip's guy, Chip was able to go get all his remaining cars signed. He had mentioned that, and not private to us before in his discussion and everything. I'm interested to hear about it. If you want to talk about it, I'd love to hear about it. And then also Tony has announced that he's going to have Rico Abreu and they're merging operations. So on the sprint car side, that's going to be awesome. And then his wife Leah's getting back in the car. I didn't get a chance yet to listen to the announcement with Harvick. What did he say he's going to do next year? Did he say that he and the wife and husband are going to race each other? I'm hoping, but
They are.
Husband and wife are going to race. So, we'll start with the Rico deal. TSR is going to put Rico in a 410 sprint, and they are going to run in the All-Stars. So they are not going to run with the World of Outlaws next year.
It's not
All-Stars?
It's high limit.
High limit. I'm sorry.
I was going to say.
So basically, they've made the decision that they want to run in Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet's league, and it's still great racing. I love it. I think they discussed still a lot of things to decide. May show up and try to run the Knoxville Nats, may run Eldora, but as far as running a full season, Rico's going to run in the 410s. So I'm excited. There was a lot of anger and angst over letting Donnie Schatz go. Schatz has been there for a very long time, but there was just some performance things and just Tony even said it was kind of like a divorce. He said, I hated to see Donnie go, but Donnie was kind of wanting to go in one direction with the car, and Tony kind of wanted to take the team in another direction. So they mutually parted ways. And so they've got the madman, Kerry Madsen, running the rest of the year. And then Rico's going to step in next year, which I'm excited about. So that's
I listened to the discussion with Dale Jr., and it sounded like it was going to be a really cool deal. He did mention, that Rico, because he's running this year in the charters, or not charters, but
I'm pretty sure they're called charters there.
Yeah. Are they called charters? Because, they're charters, but he's treating them less like the charters of NASCAR, even though they're called charters, and more like actual franchises.
Well, it's worded the same, but that's essentially what a charter is supposed to be anyway. But yeah.
But Larson and Brad Sweet and them are awarding them permanently. where it's not this is good for only a certain period of time, but the initial award and the value is going to be based off that first 2 years of seeding. And so the one thing I really took from that was there's obviously the business deal arrangement between Tony and Rico is the one that's going to be bringing the charter to Tony.
Yep.
But there's also because they're going to be handed out based on value at the end of the season, Rico is in a contention to receive the number one charter as it is right now, which would mean TSR would start with
more money.
Divide by 2 how the second season goes, their payouts, etc. So that'll be good for them.
Larson was asked about it. He said he loves it for Rico. He loves it for Tony. He said the only thing I'll say from the ownership side of the series is, yes, Rico is getting in with a good team, but you're actually losing a team at the same time.
Yeah.
He said, I don't like that, but, I can't control that. But, somebody else will come and join the field, I'm sure. But they're essentially losing a team with this merge.
Well, World of Outlaws is really the one losing a team because Tony's bunch isn't running high limit. So they're going to stay the same, but World of Outlaws is actually going to lose a team.
Yeah. And if I understand it right, Rico's still going to run some World of Outlaw events, but he's not running the full schedule because he's running like 80-something races, right?
Yeah. So he discussed that they definitely want to run Knoxville Nats. Definitely want to look into Eldora. Those are yet to be determined. But as far as the series that he will be competing for a championship in, for a full season in, it will be the high limit series. So that was exciting news. That was cool to hear.
That makes the best financial sense though, because high limit, as it's named, the payouts are just way better for the teams than what World of Outlaws has.
And it's kind of an ironic homecoming for TSR in some ways, because the series that Kyle is running with Brad to build as the high limit previously was owned by Tony in a different form. So it's, really it's going back, essentially that he's just rejoining something that he used to own without having to have all the ownership responsibilities. So, all right. You want to talk about the straight line portion, or you want to talk about
the straight line?
All right.
Straight line portion. So TSR and Elite Motorsports. Elite bought Josh Hart's Nitro team. So Josh Hart put his team up for sale, and this is the crazy thing. So Josh Hart put his team up for sale, basically went public with it at about 9 in the morning, and by 3 in the afternoon, Elite says, guess what? We've purchased a Nitro team. So
that's quick.
I guess the price was right. Yep. They are going to license Erica Enders in the car. Okay. They want her to obtain her Nitro license. And I think Stanfield, yes.
See, yes. I'm a huge fan of Erica, so that's awesome.
So they're going to get her license in that car, and they are also going to get Greg Stanfield, a license in that car as well. But here's the part that I guess I'm excited about. For the season, if they can obtain sponsorship, and that was what Tony said, and that's what Richard, having a brain fart, I can't remember his last name, the team owner of Elite. If they can obtain sponsorship, Tony will run Top Fuel Nitro again next year, but they will not run him or the car in general if they do not secure sponsorship.
Really, the guy doesn't do it to get sponsorship.
I think they will, but I also know that Tony does not want to pull sponsors away from his own car. So this is kind of cool. Got to talk to one of the marketing guys.
He still has Leah and Matt, right? So he still has Matt Hagan too, right? So there's Leah and Matt.
So Matt Hagan signed a multi-year contract.
Okay.
Leah is coming to run, and I don't know if it's extremely public knowledge, so this might be a little bit of breaking news. TSR signed a 4-year deal with Dodge. So direct connection will be on Matt Hagan's car for 10 races each of the next 4 seasons, and they will be on Leah's car for 10 races for each of the next 4 seasons.
Oh, nice.
So those cars are halfway funded. Johnson's Horsepower Garage will take care of Matt Hagan, American Rebel. Leah still has a few sponsorship availabilities that they got to work out from her. Tony doesn't want to pull from her. So currently,
Right.
Tony's dragster has Mobil 1 on it, American Rebel Beer, Johnson's Horsepower Garage, and I think he drove a Rush Trucks car. He doesn't want to pull away from his own team. So unless the sponsors are willing to double the money and put them on both cars, he said, I'm not going to take away from her. So they have to obtain full sponsorship to be able to go to the races, because he said Richard's not going to run that car out of his pocket, and Tony said he was not going to run it out of his pocket. So only if they can obtain sponsorship. I think they will.
I personally, based on Tony's increasing popularity, not decreasing, he's only becoming more popular on the nitro side after what we've seen this year. And
I mean, how do you not sponsor
he's already
the point
existing
leader?
massive fan popularity from us as NASCAR fans, prior IndyCar fans, and his dirt fan background. Like, I personally don't see how he would have a hard time, but I don't know what the budget to run a top fuel dragster is to run it. I know it's significantly less than NASCAR, but it's not pennies either. So,
One of the problems is your big teams are factory teams. So Tony Stewart Racing is a Dodge factory team. They get direct parts from Dodge. They get full Dodge support. Josh Hart's team that is being purchased is not a factory team. They weren't backed by a Chevy, a Ford, or a Dodge, or Toyota. And that's another thing too. Toyota is pulling out of the NHRA after the end of the year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
I don't think I knew that part, but okay.
Yeah, we
Toyota,
talked about it late
you
last year.
can still run it. So let me preface: you can still run a Toyota, but there, as far as the factory-backed support, there will not be. Toyota has made that announcement, so Coletta Motorsports has still got to decide what they're going to do. But I'm excited. Tony talked about he's really nervous. Only 16 cars show up. Well, only 16 cars make a race. So you've got a 1 in 15 shot of racing your wife. There's 20 races on the schedule. Odds are at some point they're going to line up head to head. At some point. Now it's not mathematically impossible to think that they would never race, but if you look at it, at some point somewhere they're going to line up side by side. Even if you look at qualifying, there's a chance that they would line up on a qualifying night side by side. Tony said it's a lose-lose situation. If he beats her, he's sleeping on the couch. If she beats him, all his buddies are going to call him and blow up his phone and say, "Ha, you got beat by a girl." So he is excited about it, and I, as a fan of Tony's, am very excited about it too. So he's back in Nitro next year, pending sponsorship.
Yeah.
So I got a question with the elite part of it. You said Erica was going. Is she going to rail, or is she going to be in a funny car?
So the only thing that they said in the statement was they were going to attempt to acquire their licenses. That is it. So basically what that means is they will put Greg in the car. They will put Erica in the car. They will make several passes. I can't remember how many it is. Tony mentioned it when he was going for his license. Basically, it will say that they are certified to drive that car at some point. So I don't know. That doesn't necessarily, and they've already said if they get sponsorship, Tony's running the whole season.
Yep.
So all this is basically saying we're going to have a car that we can put our guys in, test them, get them their license. That way, if somebody got hurt, like Leah made the test pass in the backup car for Tony on Monday after Tony got hurt.
Yep.
So Leo is essentially TSR's backup driver. So Tony got released Thursday afternoon for this past weekend's race. So he actually saw a doctor shortly after he saw me to get released to race this weekend. And I asked him, if he says you're not good to go, what's the plan? Leo was going to get in the car this weekend had he not been ready to go. That's essentially what they're doing with Erica and Greg. if something happened to Tony, they would have a driver that they could put in the car in Tony's place, in Erica or in Greg, should that be necessitated.
Okay, did the doctors wrap his wrist after having to sign all your cars?
I don't know, but I did see him doing that a whole lot.
So I want to talk about that. So you got him to sign all your cars. We had been talking about like your approach and how you were going to get them all there. You know, do you get a van, a big truck? Do you have to build some custom assembly to like load them all in and out? And then you had mentioned getting like a banquet room. Where did you ultimately get them signed first?
We'll
Because it
we'll
looked
back up
like
a
you were at
little.
a track almost. I
Yeah,
don't know if
so
you, okay.
we'll back up just a little bit. So this has been one of the greatest experiences of my life. When someone that you have pulled for since you were a child and respected agrees to this, and I can't say this enough. I am so thankful. First of all, Tony did not take a dime, not a penny. Okay. This was not paid for. There was not a per signature price. This was a, you're my fan. I'm going to do this for you kind of deal. So let me lead with that. I've seen, well, he must have paid out the yin yang. $0 folks. Zero. Um, we had talked back and forth, and he had seen my collection, and we talked about every time I'd come, I was getting, 8 or 10 cars signed every appearance or something like that. And I finally said, Tony, I would love to just get them all done. And he goes, you know what? Let's do it. He said, let's get this on the books. Let's do it. And he said, I'm always in Charlotte early. Come to let's do something on that Thursday before the race weekend starts. We were going to do it at his hotel. That fell through. And it was actually Tony's idea. He goes, hell, we've got our hospitality area at the track that we use every week. It's going to have already been set up. Just bring them to the track. So we
Okay.
actually drove my wife's car, which was the coolest damn thing ever, into the nitro pits, parked right out in front of Tony's hauler and unloaded everything and filled up the actual TSR hospitality tent full of diecast cars.
Okay, so
Um,
that was what it was. It looked like you were in some kind of tent. I didn't know if that
that was
was at a
that was
facility or at the track or what.
that
I
was
thought it was at a
that was
track.
that was TSR's hospitality tent. Yes.
That's awesome.
Well, I've got a, that's crazy. I took a picture of my wife's car sitting in the nitro pits because I mean, you've got all these massive cars, and here you've got a Toyota Highlander in the nitro pit. So it was pretty cool.
I know you'd said you went through a ton of, obviously paint pens, Sharpies, everything. All the autographs I saw that you had taken pictures of looked like they were in pristine. Tony's always been one of those guys who, as long as he's not being rushed, his signatures have always looked good, much like Kyle Busch's. So they looked great. He looked like he was from the video that TSR's PR showed when they came in to meet with you and talk with you, and he was looking at all the cars. He looked at you kind of like, man, you have a problem. You need to you
Yeah,
need to come
yeah,
back.
it was I will say this, it was kind of cool. He spent uh 30 minutes signing, but he probably could have done it quicker had he not picked up a car and said, "Hey, I remember this one," or better yet, picking up a prototype and saying, "Where did this come from?" That was the more fun part of the conversations is, stuff that maybe didn't get made that he'd never seen before, and
Or had
it was
forgotten about or saw
or
like deals
forgotten
that
about,
didn't
yeah.
happen. Yep.
But it wasn't the cool thing was that he wasn't rushed, and he signed them in about 30 minutes, and I figured he'd ink his name on the last car and cut out. He stayed and watched me and my dad box him up for about an hour, just shooting the breeze back and forth. And that's something, I mean, I still don't believe that it happened, but it did. And it's just it goes to show that, you know, sometimes being a fan and being loyal to somebody will just pay off, and I've always tried to be any appearance or whatever, just be respectful and be thankful, and try to chit chat and be as nice of a fan as I can. And I guess he respected that. But for him to take the time to do that was something really, really cool. And I was honored that I got the opportunity to do it.
Well, I was when you sent me the pictures and you uh showed that it finally had come to pass and you got to do it. I was thrilled for you just because we've been talking for, months now about like, all right, this event happening and like trying to coordinate with his team and time and availability, how you were going to get them there because obviously this is a very valuable collection that most of them are prototypes for door numbers, things like that. So these are not just one-offs. Not that a normal, diecast purchased is, invaluable, but these are obviously very rare. And I think it's awesome that, with as inaccessible as some of the drivers are, for somebody as accomplished as Tony is, to still be able to do something like this for a fan. And like you mentioned, no money exchanged, no you owe me's. Thank you for making, essentially, a thank you for making my racing life possible as a fan and all the people like you. It very much reminds me of how Richard Petty behaves. Thank you for this opportunity. Because of you, I was able to do this. And, this year with Tony's accomplishments, Dale Jr. has been talking about it throughout the year as Tony's continued to perform. And he'd asked Dale or Tony on the DJD, but I firmly believe Tony is now probably the greatest race car driver of all time. When you look at all the disciplines he's won in, and not just won in, but then you look at the age at which he is now in his 50s, starting a family, married to a high performer that I can't wait to see them race against each other next year. I was really hoping that was what the announcement would be. I just hadn't had a chance to listen to, so I'm excited based on what you're saying. To see Tony and Leah face off at some point. They'll have to, whether it's a qualifying or for a points win. To see all that he's done in open wheel, sprint cars, ASA, IROC, now IROC 2.0 with the SRX that's now going to do something else, Cup, Nationwide, just his accomplishments. I don't think he gets the recognition he deserves by any means. When you think about it, they brush over him when you're talking about Jimmy Johnson's the greatest NASCAR racer of all time, Jeff Gordon. Like, yeah, their accomplishments are great, but they didn't do all this other stuff. Like, he is by far the most well-rounded driver of his generation and possibly of all time, without question.
He's very smart. Very good businessman, and again, that was probably the coolest thing I think I'll ever get to do. So very thankful to him and the team, and we enjoyed it. My dad had a ball, and he walked around the corner and he goes, "Oh God, you're getting invoice for this." So it was pretty cool. So I made TSR made the post, and we're pushing 700 die casts total, and every single last one of them is signed by Tony. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Now, if he'll just get out of the car and make no more merchandise, you're done. You're complete.
Too late.
That's not going to happen.
End of November is this year's dragster will be here, so I'll have to stand in another damn line. So
yeah, but at least it's just one for now, and then we'll see what he gets for next year. Once I'm with you, I'm confident he'll get sponsored. But I appreciate you sharing that with us. That's awesome. Like I said, I saw the media posts, and we knew as friends. But I'm just extremely happy for you because so many fans get kind of jaded by how the drivers treat them when they're at the racetrack on the weekends, and to see Tony after all this time still be appreciative of all that tells you a lot about his character as a racer, and the appreciation he has for the people that stand in the heat and watch him, and travel to the events. So thanks. I'm just happy for you. Anything else you want to share or talk about with it?
Just that I'm looking forward to next year. I really do. I can't wait to see them two line up because mathematically, some point them two are going to race. So that will be awesome. I think that will be awesome because he talked about it a little bit. How many husbands and wives get to race with one another or compete against each other in something other than maybe a card game at the house?
Right at the top level, right?
At the top level. So you're talking about at a televised event for the whole wide world to see. Who's better, mom or dad? So this will be pretty cool.
Man, it's unfortunate you won't know far enough in advance, but I can just imagine the merchandise for like the shirts for husband versus wife, and the hero cards, and all especially if she wins, like the shit talking versions of them that there could be versus like I got beat by a girl shirts or vice versa, like a picture of Tony on the couch.
I want to share this. So they've got some training equipment to help them practice on the lights. Basically a little handheld thing that helps them practice on their reaction times. Which, by the way, has everybody seen the drag race results for today, or we need to?
I haven't yet. But I
Okay,
mean, you're not
well,
gonna ruin it for me. It's okay.
a guy that is very, 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 very good on the lights won because he's very, very, very good on the lights. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
Um, uh, without spoilers. So he's it matters. Your reaction time
Yeah.
matters. So last year, Tony actually had to rename the team for a race weekend. They put all banners up over TSR and named it LSR Racing because he and the missus had a competition on that little game who would have the best reaction time, and Leah beat him. So the VIP area said LSR, the trailers said LSR. They took the TSR sticker off the cars and put LSR on it, and they sold T-shirts with LSR on it. So that was actually pretty good that she beat him in reaction time.
That's cool. I did
Well,
want to
it's
ask
pretty
you, I
easy
have
to
one
do. She's
question.
like half his age.
I did have one question for you about the diecast thing because you were mentioning he'd pick them up and tell you stories. Were there any where he's like, I'm taking this? Because obviously drivers
Um,
keep their own collection of their own things, memorabilia for
well,
20 years,
what
super.
was cool, what was cool was his father-in-law has managed to pull off the same thing that I have. So
Okay.
his father-in-law has everything, and he said if he said it's everything. If it was produced, they just shipped one straight to me. And so he might not have all the special finishes and stuff, but he does. He has one standard version of everything that he's ever had made for him. And he was his father-in-law called him and said, what am I going to do with this shit? And Tony said, I don't know, sell it. And he hung up the phone, and Leah said, you dumbass, you've got a kid that in a few years might appreciate this stuff. So he picked up the phone and said, box it up, don't get rid of it. Dom may want it one day. And I've actually got that on video. I'll have to send it to you guys. That was my dad was my PR guy, and he videotaped a whole bunch of stuff. So I got videos and stuff from the whole thing. But he said, it will be cool to hand Dom these cars. And he said, I raced in a time to where just about everything I ever did was recorded. So I can pick up a car, go find a race, and tell Dom this is where this car is from because it's either on YouTube or somewhere that he could find it. And he goes, that's going to be really cool to show Dom down the road uh, how much of a badass his dad was.
Yeah. Yeah. I just thought it'd be interesting just because, like you said, there's some he picked it up and doesn't, maybe it never got made, things they
Well,
didn't offer.
I want to say this too. So he didn't rush through it. And what was crazy was I was just tickled pink that he was willing to sign them. But he'd pick up a car and he'd go, "Is this okay to sign right here?" And I'm like, "Tony, you just put your name on it anywhere you want." Some of them, so the old, you guys know this. Some of the older cars, the front windshield had a ridge on the
Yeah.
windshield, and they're a little more difficult to sign. And so he managed to do it just fine. But he said, I told him if on the roof hood, whatever he wanted to do. But he picked up a couple of cars and said, I remember this car and the Kid Rock car. He said, man, I've got the helmet from this car. And I told him I'm the reason he lost that race. So to age myself a little bit, we went with the Boy Scouts to that race. So Charlotte Motor Speedway used to let the Boy Scouts go in the turn two grandstands for free. And so the whole ride there, I'm like, y'all racing for second today. Tony's running this race. Y'all, it's over. And it was. He led the whole race till a plug wire came loose and never could get caught back up. But it was cool to share some really neat stories with him and kind of go down memory lane with some paint schemes. And um, you had all these crew members coming in wanting to know what the hell me and my dad were doing, and they're taking pictures and asking me questions about the collection, and like, man, that's really cool, or I've never seen that before. And so it was a really fun experience.
Yeah, I imagine that would be interesting as well because they're all racers, so then they're seeing like, man, some of these fans are like truly, truly dedicated. Like, well, I'm glad you got them all back home safe, got them all put away, and that you got nice, clean signatures. Really happy for you.
Thanks,
Um,
man.
with that, any other topics we want to talk about before we wrap up the show?
I'm good.
I'm good.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for jumping on. Glad we were able to get it done right after the race. And again, congrats to Chip. We'll definitely tag Tony and TSR in this once we get it uploaded to Spotify and YouTube. And we'll see everybody next week. Thanks, Kim.
See
Thanks,
you
John.
guys.
See you.
Thank you.